Hello and welcome to the channel all about economic board games. Today I'm going to be giving you a run through of a game called Briefcase. You can see the designers down here. This is a 2 to 4 player game, and in a 2-player game you're looking at between 45 to 60 minutes, probably up to about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half maybe in a 3-4 player game. Now I'm going to give you a better insight as to how this plays. There is just me as usual, and I'm going to be imitating 2 players. And if you're after a sort of more brief overview of the game, then go and check out my video I did last week on that one. I'm not going to go too heavy on the rules, but kind of do that as I attempt to go through it with these 2 players. Now essentially the game is about being an entrepreneur and you're trying to set up businesses. You're opening your briefcase to get all your business plans out, is kind of the theme of the name of the game, and you will go through the game building these businesses here. You've got the 8 orange ones and 6 red ones, which are slightly harder to get, and you'll be getting resources to do that and meet the requirements, getting victory points from these when you actually activate them, victory points from getting these kind of shares from this central bank, and there's a few points elsewhere from having resources, etc. Now for this setup, there's a couple of setups you can try in the book. I've gone for the simple game. You've got a faster game, complex, light interaction, heavy interaction, so a couple of variations. You've also got these randomizer cards in the box that you can just choose from, and they give you guidance as to how many cards you get for the player count as well. I'll probably use this as a reference to sort of remember what the iconography is in the game, because a lot of these businesses give you bonuses as actions as you go through. So the rule book's really handy for that as well. So let's leave that handy. To begin with then, I've got 2 players. You both have a power plant, and you can see it's slightly greyed out on this side, or what is greyed out. The little light bulb represents that it's inactive, and once you've activated it by paying these resources here, so a steel and personnel in this case, you turn it over and you're going to get a victory point at the top right. You've got the energy you're going to get paid out, and it doesn't actually have an action on this particular one. So in terms of setup then, I think you always choose 8 of these orange ones, a bit random. You got 6 of these red companies. You get a deck, so the whole game in essence is kind of like a deck builder. If you're familiar with Dominion, it kind of plays the same. You've got this central bank, and these are the 4 different types of action cards that make up your hand. In this case, you start with 3 buy cards, which let you buy stuff. You've got 3 action cards that let you actually do stuff. And then you've got these 6 obstacle cards. I did forget the name of what these were called in my last overview video, but they're obstacles. And gradually as you go through the game, these cards, as you complete them, will give you more of a combination of those into your hand. Some of them let you discard them, etc. And at some stage you can discard your buy cards to using an action to actually get these victory points. In front of me you've got this sort of yellow card. I'm yellow, I've got a red player. This represents almost your desk in your warehouse, and you can keep your resources there up to a maximum of 5 at the end of your turn, and that's made up of these 4 resources: personnel, steel, you've got concrete hidden, and paperwork. These are kind of like traded import goods. You can see it costs you 2 buys to get those, whereas these are only 1 buy, and that can be any resource you want. Those actually, I believe, only come into play once one of these resources has been exhausted into a separate discard pile. And you've also got energy, which is unlimited, and they don't kind of count as part of your 5 limit as well. So I'm just going to get cracking, and I'm going to give my hand a shuffle. Let's start with yellow. I think it's the last person who went to a meeting starts the game. I'll go through what the businesses are as I go through, and I'll kind of detail what these red and blue things are as well. So you shuffle your hand, you deal 4 cards out to yourself, and you're going to be revealing your 4 cards, and you're going to be doing actions based on these, and once you're done you discard them, and they kind of get recycled. So we've got an action and 3 obstacles. So I haven't actually got any buys, which is a shame, because I wanted to maybe buy some materials. Can't actually do a lot, so the action is just going to have to go on my discard. I can spend 2 obstacles, or you could spend 2 of any one type. So if I had 2 actions to move these obstacle cards. So currently these two are hogging these resources underneath. I'm looking at my opponent thinking, right, they need steel and personnel. Let's put that grey side up, which is kind of what I need anyway. But just to scupper them slightly, I'm going to spend 2 obstacle cards to move this over to the steel, which hinders them from buying it if they do manage to get any buys on their turn. And that is literally it. I've used all my actions. So this player, I'm going to give it a shuffle. They're going to choose 4 cards. And let's see what they got. So they got a buy and 3 obstacles. Now they could, say if they wanted to buy that steel, they could pay the 2 obstacles to move this one and then buy it. But what they're going to do is be maybe a bit sneakier here. So they're going to buy something. So they put that in the discard pile. Hopefully you can see that in the camera view. And they're going to buy a personnel. So you're going to put it in on their desk warehouse. And you can see they need a personnel. Now they're going to spend these 2 obstacles to move one of these. And they're going to move it onto the personnel. So now this player can't actually get either of them unless they have some obstacle cards. This extra one is gone. Over to this player then. Trying to make space so I don't get these cards muddled up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have got a couple of buys, a couple of actions. So what can we buy again? We could buy these businesses. Now looking at the businesses then, you've got a warehouse here. You can see the cost of buying it is 2 at the top. Now it should be this face up because we haven't actually activated it. So we could buy the warehouse for 2. We put it in our kind of tableau here. And once we get these resources, we can activate it. So it doesn't actually do a fat lot for us at the moment. You can see once we have done it, the victory point would be 1 at the top. And you'd have this action here, which increases your limit of resources from 5, which is the standard, to 8 in this case, because thematically it's a warehouse. You'd also get an action card from the top, and that'd go in your deck. Now I've got 2 buys. What do I want to buy? We've got the insurance company, and at the beginning of my turn, I get +1, I believe, extra card in my hand, which is very important, and it's worth a couple of EPs as well. I do like that one. This one is any of those 3 resources I can use that for. There's a lot of iconography, but it kind of makes sense after a while. Shop them all doesn't actually give you an action, but it gives you a buy. And the buys are kind of key. You want them in your hand. You want to get your deck full of them because it gives you more opportunities to do things. But do I want to just get this power plant underway, which I kind of can't do just yet because they are blocked. But I could spend these 2 as the same to move one of them. I think I'm going to go and buy, I like that insurance company. I think that's a good one. So I'll spend my 2 buys, they go in my discard pile, take the insurance company, keep it grey side down for now. 2 actions. Now I'm just going to check that insurance company does what I think it does. Let's have a look, where are we? Insurance, yeah, the hand limit's increased by 1. Now on the back here, you've got this nice iconography sort of guideline symbol, so you can see that red little symbol start of turn. So that's great. If I manage to do that, I'm going to get an extra card, which is awesome. So these 2 then, I'm going to spend them to move one of these. Now, if I move one of them, I'm potentially helping my opponent. So maybe I will just move this from the cargo company to the insurance company because I don't want them to be able to get this particular one. Now, you can't actually buy any of these red cards just yet until the game says you have activated at least 2 oranges. So that means turn them from grey to the opposite side. So over to these guys. It's a bit of a slow start in this game because you kind of, you're just recycling this deck hoping to get what you need. So again, they've got 2 buys and an obstacle. And again, they need a steel, so they're going to spend the 2 obstacles to move this, and they're going to buy 1 steel. So they've got the goods for this, they'll spend that. They need to activate it, which they haven't got an activate card, so they're going to spend 1, and they are going to maybe buy another resource, so you can buy as many resources as you want if you've got the buys to do so. You can only ever buy maximum of 1 building on your turn though. But interestingly, when you activate them, you can activate as many times as you want, unless it's got a little light bulb on one of the bottom parts like or this is the simple game. They might not actually have any of those reactivate light bulbs on them. I think we're going to buy a construction company. And again, let's just make sure it's what I think it is. I think it means I can trade any of those 3 in for concrete. Construction, where are we? The player may use any resource as concrete. Excellent. So I can basically use any of these 3 resources, personnel, steel or paper, as concrete as well, which kind of helps me if they do get blocked up and I don't have to spend those obstacle cards to do so. So they've spent theirs. Over to these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need quite a few resources. So this power symbol we need, don't actually think we can get power from any of these special abilities, so we're going to have to build our power plant. So we're going to spend that buy to get this steel, and we're just going to spend these 2 to move. Now what are these guys after? They're after steel, and we no longer need that, so we're going to move that one to steel, and that last one is not going to be used. Over to the next player then, 4 cards. So we can do an action now. So we're going to spend an action to spend these 2 goods, which kind of just go in a discard pile out of the game. We've spent the 2 required for this. We turn it over and we immediately get 2 energy for doing so. And remember, energy doesn't become part of your tally for having 5 or less on the end of your turn. And we've already got 1 victory point. We're on the way to the path to glory. So what else are we going to do? So I think we can't really do a fat lot of that one. 2 actions, we can move one of these cards. Now this player, we can see, I believe this is open information. Hopefully you can see that in the camera view there. Is after personnel. So we're not really wanting to move either of them, but they've already got the steel. So maybe they just want to move it and cover the concrete, which they might need later on. So you can see there's a little bit of thinking about what your opponents are after. And that's kind of a lot of the game actually is moving these things around and hindering your opponents. The cruel world of business. And that's them done. Over to these guys. So you've exhausted your deck. You've done all your actions and you've made your discard pile. You then need to reshuffle this discard pile, which then forms your deck. And again, if you've played Dominion, that will sound too obvious to you. There we are. Draw 4 more cards. And so we've got 2 buys and we've got an obstacle. So we preferably want to buy personnel. So we're going to spend, this is where these obstacle cards come in handy, because you do get to move these if you want. So we will buy a personnel now, which costs just the 1 buy. And remember, it's in your discard pile, it doesn't get removed or trashed from the game. So we now have enough to actually activate the power plant, but we don't have an activate card yet. So we're going to buy a personnel while it's still available, because we're going to need it for the insurance company, and that's all we're doing. Over to these guys again, they need to reshuffle their deck, and let's get cracking. So we've got a couple of buys and an activate. Have we got enough stuff to do what we need? So they've got energy, which is great. We need a steel, which is being left open. So we're going to buy a steel. We're then going to activate. So we're going to spend a steel and an energy. So the energy goes back on the pile because it kind of never runs out. The steel's out of the game. Now, why are they out of the game? Because one of the game end trigger points is when 2 of these resource piles have been exhausted. And while I'm on that subject, that will trigger game end, and whoever started, the other players will get a final turn. You can also trigger the game end if all these companies have gone, or if there's ever no buy cards left, and then you will score points. I'll do that as well while I'm here in case I forget later. Points can come from the buildings and the businesses you've built. So the top right there, you'll add up all them. You'll get 1 point for every 4 resources that you may have not had a chance to use. You can sometimes get points from these little briefcase symbols at the bottom in the action. So you're going to get 1 point for every one of those shares. And you also get points from having these shares. Now there was 5 of each per player to set up with, so there's 10 in a 2-player game. And that's the same with setting up these, so there is certain numbers to set up with depending on the player count. So there's 6 per player, 5, 5 and 5 per player, and there is 12 buys per player, so with more players there will be more cards to make it a more balanced and fair game. Now back to this player, so we've kind of spent this one and we've created our construction company. Now we can now benefit from this action continuously unless there was a light bulb there, which there isn't in the simple game. If that was the case, you'd have to keep reactivating it to make the most of it. We could, importantly, you get what the production is on the right. So in this case, we're going to take a buy from the buy pile, and that now gets added to our discard pile, which is great. We're slowly developing our deck, which means more buys might come out. Now we could reactivate this again, which I think I'm going to do. I'm going to basically spend my buy to get another steal, activate again, which is basically, they call it growing the company. So I'm growing my construction company. So I spend an energy, which goes back here, a steal, which is out of the game, and I have activated this again. So that's an ongoing ability, the action, but you can see on the far right I've then produced another buy. It gives me more strength in my discard pile, and that's them done. So this player here really need to get a move on. And what do we need then? So we can actually activate our power plant. So we're gonna do so. So we spend a personnel and a steel. Activate that and we get 2 energy. And what do they need for the bottom one? So they've already got the personnel, they just need the concrete. Excellence. This is where these obstacle cards come in handy. They can move this one. I'm just going to move it anywhere for now, but usually you'd look at your opponents and you'd see what they might require on future turns and try and block them, but I'll be here forever doing that. So I'm going to buy this one. Oh, not that one, it's this one. Now I haven't actually got another activate to do this one just yet, but I'm ready for future turns. 4 cards again. And this player's activated both of them, so they are probably looking to expand their businesses now. Now they have 2 activated orange ones. They can start purchasing these red ones, which tend to be juicier. And you can see they cost a bit more buys, or not even a cost really. It's more getting the hand of cards out of your deck to fulfill them. So you can see to get 4 buys in your hand is going to take some effort, considering your hand size is only 4. You need 4 straight buys, and that's where things like the insurance company come in handy. Even the bank here as well gives you +1. So if you must get the bank and the insurance company, a bit of synergy there with the financial industry, and in that case you'll have a hand of 6, which then gives you the ability to use the finances in theory, I guess, to start buying maybe the theme park, which is 5 victory points but doesn't actually give you any action. So I'm blabbing on, let's do something then. We are going to buy, now you can't buy the same company twice, so I couldn't buy this construction company, but I'm interested in that insurance company. So I'm going to spend my 2 obstacles. Maybe instead, because my problem is if I move that now, I haven't actually got the 2 buys to buy it, and then it could just be a waste. So I'm going to buy the materials required for it. So I'm going to buy one of these, which is the concrete, and my activate's pretty much useless at the moment. And I'm going to move an obstacle from the personnel, because I'm going to be needing a personnel at some point. Now, once one of these piles is run out, I think I mentioned earlier, you can start getting these imported goods or traded goods, and they cost 2 buys to get it. And as you can see, it's like a joker, really. Over to these guys. So we've got 4 cards remaining. Activate. So we do want to activate this insurance company. We've got a concrete, an energy, and a personnel. Great. Again, the energy goes back there. Those 2 out of the game, and we have activated this, which gives us the ability to increase our hand size. Fantastic. We're now drawing 5. We also get another obstacle card in our discard and another activate. And I can't remember what I've used now. I've used 1 activate. I haven't got anything else to activate. And I've got 2 of these, and maybe I am thinking, oh, this player's got 2 activated, I'm going to move it here because I want to hinder them. There we go. And we then reshuffle, ready for next turn, and we've got hand size of 5. If I can try my best to remember that additional perk. Over to these guys, still 4 cards. Oh wow, that's a bit of bad luck in it. So let's spend 2 to move it off the bank, and let's spend 2 to move it off the insurance company. I do wish that there was, you know, something else you could use these obstacle cards for other than just moving them, but I guess in a 3-4 play game it is crucial to be able to move those cards. Now once one of these resources has been completely diminished, one of these will be removed. It'll be a bit unfair to have 3 piles with the 2 of them on there. And some of these cards as well do actually let you ignore the abilities. For example, this cargo company here, you can bypass one of them and just buy the resource. I guess in essence, cargo company, you're bringing in the goods yourself from abroad. I'll go for a few of these actually. Accounting firm, I believe you can use 3 of the same type of card to reenact as a buy or an action. We've got logistics, which is the same. You can use 2 cards of the same type to essentially be a buy, which can only be used on these 4 goods. We've got a steel factory, which is pretty much the same as this construction firm, but a different good. Financial services, 1 time only. You can use a card as a buy by the looks of it. So yeah, some juicy stuff. And the high-tech company and the theme park tend to be my favourites because they're just worth pure victory points, 6 in each. And I guess the economy side of this game, it's got a strong business theme, is that you're producing those goods and you're using those produced goods to build your businesses, get the raw materials, and do a little bit of investment as to get these extra VPs there. Right, which player was I doing? I think I'd just done those and reshuffled over to these guys. 5 cards this time, which should make a big difference. So they've also turned those over. They still need more buys. Now you could just reactivate these again and again. And interestingly, not that I've had the opportunity yet, but you'll notice there's this hire card, which I've not mentioned. If you get these in your hand and you start drawing them, what that allows you to do is use your opponent's cards, and you can spend the resource. So let's just say I really wanted to use this construction company. I could use my hire card and discard it like you would normally. I'd spend the energy and the steel. I'd have to give one of those resources to that opponent on whose card I'm using. You can choose which one. So let's just say I give them an energy. The steel would go in the discard pile. I get to produce. So I basically am hiring that construction company to produce a buy card for me, which is quite handy. So you don't actually have to race to get that construction company yourself, which could be useful if you're not getting the obstacle cards you need to move it. And there's a kind of a tiered structure to having to move that and spend to get the resource and then produce it and get this, and at least it's victory points. But the higher cards can bring a different aspect to the game. I probably won't really get to touch on them in this game with the simple game setup. I can't see too many higher cards coming into play. There's one here on the accounting firm, and that's pretty much it. So where are we at? We're going to buy. Is there any businesses up for grabs? Maybe the accounting firm. That gives me some free cards. I think I will. I think that's quite powerful. We're going to buy that one then. Let's put that on the grey side. Not sure if that's out of view or not. Let's stack it up there. And I am going to spend 2 of these. So you can see I'm going to need paper and personnel. So I'm just going to move that onto the concrete one. And I can spend 2 of those as well. Let's move this one down to the high-tech company in case this player had any plans to grab those victory points. Most games I've played, I've ended up with sort of between 10 and 16 victory points. So 6 points from that one is very big indeed. Now these guys, 4 hand limit. Couple of buys, couple of actions. What have we got? We got a concrete. So we could buy something nice here for 2. Logistics company maybe. So we've got construction, power plant. tend to want to go for things with the buys on. Or maybe I could buy something and activate what one of these players have got. And you can see that if you did hire and use someone else's business, I don't believe you do that action, because you can see that's an ongoing action of +1 in your hand, so it wouldn't kind of make sense. We're just going to buy a cargo company. That'd let me ignore one of those, which could be handy, and it's worth 2 victory points. Although I have got a concrete, which isn't doing a lot at the moment. Maybe a logistics company. Let's do that. So you're going to need a bit of space on your table when you play this. There we are, 2 actions which I will spend to move one of these cards. Now what do I need? I need personnel and steel, so I'm going to remove it off the personnel from the steel and shove it over there. Okay, over to this player. 5 cards, and we've got a couple of buys. And what we're after, so we want to get the resources to be able to activate this and get the point and get some more cards in our hand as well. So we need personnel and paper. So personnel's available, we'll buy that one. And we're going to spend the 2 obstacles to move that one. Another buy to get that. Oh, this has worked out quite nice. And then activate to spend the personnel on that one. And we've activated this, which immediately gives us a higher card. We've done it. And another obstacle. And we've now got the action to spend 3 of the same card to either be a buy or an action. So gives you a bit more flexibility if you're not quite getting what you want from your hand. 4 cards. And 2 buys. So these guys need a steel and a personnel. So they can buy this personnel. They can move that from the steel, and then they can buy a steel. So you can see how those obstacle cards do come in handy, just to give you that flexibility to buy what you want. These guys then, so we got 5 cards. So you can see they've got 4. We're going to have to reshuffle our discard pile. Now, like any deck management game, you kind of are looking at what you're producing, because you're populating your hand with cards you might not really want. Now in this simple game, there's not the option to trash cards, which is basically actually getting rid of these cards out of the game. If you play some of the other games, or you decide to choose some of the businesses that allow you to do that, it can make it a lot more fun, because your hand becomes efficient with what you actually want. You can buy more stuff, and so the simple game just gets you going, and it is fairly simple, but there is a lot more meat in some of the other options. So 5 cards here. So we've got the higher card. So this would be great to sort of demonstrate to you then. Right, so we've got 3 there. Well, they could borrow these guys. So we've got an energy, so they're going to need a steel. So you still need the resources to be able to do it. And the steel's available, but we've got no buy and only but. The accounting firm is coming handy. We can spend 3 of the same card, 3 obstacles, so those cards that we thought weren't doing us a fat lot, and we can have it as a buy. We will then buy this steel. We will then use the hire card to hire this company's ability, and we will give them, what should we give them, an energy, discard the other one, and we have activated this, which gets us a buy from here, and that buy will go in our discard pile. We've got an activate left, which I don't think I can do a fat lot with. And there we go. What a great demonstration to show you the power of a hire card and the power of this accounting firm as well. It only cost me 1 buy, and as you can see, my insurance company's given me the bigger hand and the opportunity to get those. So good stuff. Right, 4 cards. Now these guys have not got the accountant, and they haven't actually activated the logistics company here, which is a shame, because they would have spent 2 of the same type to be able to buy, in this case, one of the resources there. So they're a little bit scuppered, if I'm honest, and they're just going to move 2 things. Let's just not think too hard about it. Over to these guys. Right, I'm going to probably wrap it up in a minute, because not going to do a full playthrough. I'm just going to show you how to use a central bank. And I think I've pretty much explained everything to you. So you basically spend and activate to spend a buy card to get one of these, and you can see it says there, the little light bulb shows it's in action, so you've discarded that and you get one of these. That's basically a victory point for the end of the game. The reason you might want to do it early on, you can only do that once you've got 2 companies that have been activated, so they're both eligible at the moment. Well, you don't want to do it early on because you're getting rid of your buys, basically, and you kind of want those to be able to do options later on. But equally, there's only 5 per player in this, so there's 10 for this 2-player game, and if you get them first, you're kind of hindering your opponent from, you're pushing them into doing other things to be able to get those points. So, yeah, that's a strategy which I've not fully utilised, but that's what you could do. And I'm going to leave it there, folks. Hopefully that gives you a really good insight as to how it plays. And let's just have another look at some of these cards. And so, again, the briefcases are for endgame scoring. We've got, what's that, 2 and 2 cards of the same type into anything you want. And you've got some nice buys there as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, and I do find this handy. I think when you first play, you're kind of like, well, what's that symbol mean? And that's really useful. What have I tried? The faster game was nice. You had the newspaper, the oil refinery. Complex game, I'd imagine, brings more of those light bulbs that you have to reactivate again and again. Overall, yeah, nice game for that 45 to 60 minute mark. Personally, I'd only really play it with 2 players, but I think with 3 or 4 players, it would be okay. You get a bit more interaction and a bit more going on there. And that's it, a kind of business deck management game there. Hope you enjoy.